So when we first began with the COVID restrictions that came upon us, we went online or streaming only. We had a bit of a benefit as Worship Arts because we had been streaming for several years previous our services, although it was streaming what happened live here in this auditorium. And so we just continued to stream and do our music and worship music with no one here except cameras and a few techs. But we learned early on that that wasn't really going to be sufficient for the long haul. And then we began to upgrade a lot of the equipment we had, and we made a lot of improvements to what we do online and how we produce a worship experience for an online audience. So some of the changes, I would think two main things. One of them had to do with the technology. We basically upgraded a lot of our system. We added a camera, we added excellent videographers, and put in kind of a training regimen for everybody, our volunteer people. We added a new switcher. We added a new computer for all the computer graphics that go up on the screen. And that really, we had a big learning curve. And it took us a while to figure out how to integrate all of this new gear and get it to work. And I had some really smart people working on that did a tremendous job.
The biggest hurdle we had to overcome when we moved all online was just getting our quality of streaming content to a higher level than it was previously at. So that meant adding in a roaming camera and doing post-editing on all of our recordings for Sunday, which is something we'd never done before. So getting that workflow nailed down and getting these cameras and getting all that whole system just kind of worked out and ironed out in the beginning was probably the toughest part about moving online.
So when we first started, we were like, okay, how do we do this? We had not done this, just speaking to a camera before. So we started sitting behind a table and pretty solemn. So what we realized is that wasn't working. And so we started standing and then more energy because we had to communicate with an audience that was watching us on the other side of a camera. And so we had to be more prepared, and we had to realize we would only get one take, so there wouldn't be like multiple services that we could then choose what went online, but we really had to make this one time matter most. And so we gave it our all and gave it our best.
Yeah, so as part of introducing the roaming camera and trying to up our quality, that required our video team to really step up their commitment and their skill level. Learning how to operate this, takes a lot of, you got to think about a lot of things, the framing, the exposure, the position on stage, what's coming up in the song, capturing a solo or a featured singer or something like that. And you have to be really agile, so we're trying to get young people to get trained up on a roaming camera. Because this introduced a lot of motion, dynamic to the production quality, which adds so much to the engagement factor, we've adjusted the way we filmed our fixed cameras too, where we have some motion. So that just that required kind of a different mindset as far as commitment of the team, as far as getting additional team members, because we have additional cameras, getting new skills developed, asking them for a greater commitment. Before it was just show up on Sunday and sit in the camera, behind the camera, and do it for the services. Now they come on Tuesdays, and we're really engaged for a long time, as well as Sundays, because we do part of our service live on Sunday.
The other end was on our artistic end, even though I regard our technical artists as artists, but they're much more on the technical side. But this other part was the people on stage, the band players, the singers, how we were going to engage without people in the room. It meant that we really had to learn how to engage with the camera, and for our imagination or our sense or reality had to be that we were worshiping for people that were going to watch this and worship with us down the road. but it meant that right now we had to engage fully in our worship experience and our connection with God and with each other. And so that was a big learning curve for us. And it meant that we were more vulnerable, we were more responsible for everything that we brought to the table artistically and musically. So everybody stepped up their game, band-wise, the singers. And we also did another thing where we brought in some what we call stage coaches, where they weren't riding a horse and buggy, but they were here to act as our audience, but really to give us feedback, direct feedback, right in the moment, right before we would record, to help us be engaging and connect with the heart and the spirit of each one of these songs that we sing and the story that they tell.
So for me, it was natural to speak to a camera. For some reason, I didn't really have to do a lot to change my style. Just had to make sure that I was engaging and to be able to allow people to connect with me personally. And one of the things I realized is that it is harder to communicate heart when you don't have an audience. And so I had to be more thoughtful in the ways that I would communicate my heart, and to build people to be able to sense what I was saying and not be just communicating information from my head.
The way things have changed now, as after going online, normally Tuesdays were reserved for just rehearsal, and then Sunday would come and we'd do live band, live lights, live everything else. But now, since we're all online, Tuesdays have turned into a hybrid of rehearsal and also recording days. So when musicians get here and when the tech team gets here, we're kind of scrambling just to get everything worked out, all the kinks ironed out. But everyone's been a really good sport about it, and we've really been able to improve our production quality as we've moved through a lot of different rehearsals, and we've had up days and we've had down days, and we've learned a lot just moving through that and working out all the kinks.
Oh, has any good come out of this? Exponential good. I spoke of the improvements that we've made, and I can't begin to drill down all of the things that have been a benefit to us. One of them, I think in some ways, well, in some ways, very much so, it's brought all of us together more, because we've had a point, we've had a focus each week. We're not just technically better, but that's just kind of gone off the map. It's just increased so much. But there's a heart and a spirit that happens in this room without people knowing that we're going to be broadcasting this down the road, and it's going to be available for people. And so we try to keep our vision on that, telling the story of every song, engaging in it in a very authentic way. It's been a tremendous improvement for us as a whole team.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is just fantastic about, for us, particularly in this COVID issue that we've been having, is that our video team, we've had a video team, we've had cameras, and we've serviced an online community for years, but it's never had the focus that it has now, because now it's everything. That's our whole audience. And so we've been able to really look at it, do much more evaluation and just critiquing what it looks like and how we want it to look like. And you've probably heard from Garrett, but a new switcher, new camera, incorporating totally different types of camera work, and just making a focus on what does it look like on film, and how do we tell the story, tell it well on camera, and to convey the energy that we want that's similar to what it would be here in the room for the people at home. And so I'm really happy that we've been able to really catapult ourselves up a notch and kind of on a trajectory to keep going, and let's push it another notch and get better and better.